So I've been posting these questions on my community tab about how people would spend their time, how people would make money, how much money people think that they can make in a certain period of time. So I started this about a week ago, I guess, but my first question had to do with what do you need to do in order to make better use of your time? And people said 7% work more, 40% play less, 33% plan better, and then 20% something else. But okay, the two that are interesting to me are 40% play less and 33% plan more, and only 7% said work more. Now, keep that in mind, all right? So the first question having to do with money is the next one. Now keep in mind, all of my polls here are very small sample sizes. Like, I don't have huge following here on this channel, especially in terms of how many people answer these polls. So most of them are under like 30 responses, most of them even less than 20 responses. But keep that in mind. But it is interesting just seeing the school of thought that a lot of people have. Okay, so here's the first question. How fast do you think you could save $1 million in legal ways if you absolutely had to? And 88% said maybe in my lifetime. 0% said less than a day. And of course, there's a little bit there in the middle, but not a whole lot. So there's the two extremes. Less than a day, nobody. Maybe in my lifetime, 88%. Now, I thought it was going to be, at least some people would say less than a day. Like, because I tried to stress, if you absolutely had to, right? How fast can you raise $1 million? You know, I don't know if I could do it in less than a day, but I would certainly try. And if I absolutely had to, like, we're going to make a big effort, right? Okay, so that's the first one. Next one was, how fast do you think you could save $100,000 in legal ways if you absolutely had to? So I'm decreasing the amount of money. Same question, though. So obviously, the maybe in my lifetime is going to be a little bit less because other ones are going to go up a little bit more, right? So one person did say less than a day, or at least 5%. I don't know if that's one person out of 20. I think that's 1%, right? Or one person. Nobody said less than a month, but 41% said less than a year. So now we're getting, closer to what people consider to be realistic. Once again, though, I would stress that if you absolutely had to, $100,000, I think if I absolutely had to, yes, I could certainly do it in less than a year. Maybe if I absolutely had to, maybe even less than a month, like working around the clock, begging your friends, $100,000, I think less than a month, it's possible, right? It's possible. Okay, next one though, because we're gonna get closer and closer to what I think was the most interesting thing. Next one, how fast do you think? Now we're at the $10,000 response, and most people said less than a year. That maybe in a lifetime is going down. More people are saying less than a day. More people are saying less than a month. Let's keep going. How fast do you think you could save just $1,000? Just $1,000 in legal ways if you absolutely had to. The majority of responses are less than a month. $1,000? I would think the majority would be less than a day. In all honesty, $1,000 is not that much money. And if you really had to, absolutely had to, remember, this is the way I'm phrasing that. Like, if it was crucial to save $1,000, man, you could go out, talk to all your neighbors, figure out what you need to do to raise $1,000 if you absolutely had to. So I would think one day would be the response there, right? Okay, let's keep going though. How fast do you think you could save just $100? Just $100. Now, of course, at this point, finally, that majority response is less than a day. But some people think not even a month. It would take at least more than a day, but certainly less than a month. And a few people, I don't know if they were joking, but they said maybe in my lifetime, just $100. That's not a lot of money, guys. And yet, it is eye-opening to think that there are people who, hopefully they were just joking, but can't even save $100 in their lifetime. Or nobody said less than a year. So some people said maybe in my lifetime, they chose that over the response of less than a year. That's a little scary. Hopefully they were just joking, but it is eye-opening. All right, now here's the crux of it. Here's where we're driving towards. The question that I really want to focus on. There might be one more after this, but okay. Here's the question: if it was truly a matter of life and death, how much money do you think you could raise in a day? And the majority was $1,000. Now, yes, like I said before, I think in a day I could certainly raise $1,000 very easily. But I guess what I'm driving at here is that I actually worded this question differently, but it's the same question as the question that I've been posting all along. If you absolutely had to, how much money do you think you could raise, right? So I phrased it differently, but it's interesting then that 15% said $1 million. Like, okay, so going back to the first question about money, is that how fast could you raise $1 million if you absolutely had to, right? Nobody said less than a day. And yet if we flip that question around and say, how much money can you raise in a day if your life depended on it? 15% said $1 million. I think that is incredibly eye-opening. Like, because to me, in my mind, the two are absolutely the same question. If I absolutely had to, what does that come down to? Life and death, right? My life, a family member's life. Like, there's no other absolutely have to's about it, right? So anything else that you say absolutely had to is going to be a matter of enjoyment or comfort in some way, right? But when it comes to my life, that's an absolutely have to kind of moment or mentality. Or my family member's life or a friend's life. That's a I have to do this. How much money can I raise in one day if I absolutely have to? So most people say $1,000. I would say if you absolutely have to, or like if your life depended on it, you can raise more than $1,000. You can raise more than $10,000, I would think. So 15% are, I think that's getting at it, right? So $1 million. Now, okay, here's the last question I'm talking about this morning. But all these questions in mind, keep all these questions in mind. The next question that I posted on my community tab was, how much time do you waste every day? Think about that, because if you really think that you can raise $1,000 in a day, if you absolutely have to, if your life depended on it, and yet we're wasting 4 to 7 hours, that's the majority response, 4 to 7 hours every day. Some people say even more, 13 plus hours, right? You know, sometimes we like to complain about our finances. We like to say, if I was born in a different family, if I was born at a different time, if I would have, just come up with that killer idea before somebody else released it or whatever it is. We like to blame our finances on somebody else. But if we admit that we're wasting 4 to 7 hours, that's the majority. There's people who say even more every single day. Man, spend that time in more productive ways, because we've already said that we can raise $1,000 in a day if our life depended on it. So maybe your life doesn't depend on it, but if you think you can raise that in a day, get to work, man. Spend 4 hours a day for 8 days, and you can probably raise $1,000 in that same way, right? Anyway, all that to say, I thought that was extremely interesting. I hope that you found that interesting as well. Just thinking about both myself and how other people can raise various amounts or think that we can raise various amounts in a certain amount of time. And yet we waste so much time, oftentimes, doing just trivial things that don't matter. Listen, I don't have this all figured out, but I am trying. I am working on things, and I'm committed to the process. And even if I don't make it all happen in a day, maybe in a lifetime, right? Hey, if I can do it, you can do it too. I'm just an average guy.